The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
But perhaps the biggest bombshell, investigators say they found no incriminating client list of Epstein's, no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals, and no evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties.
That's right. After months of promising to deliver the goods on the Jeffrey Epstein case, Trump's Justice Department and the FBI have miraculously concluded there is no evidence that Epstein blackmailed powerful figures, kept a client list, or was murdered. Cenk, before we get into the details and all of the fallout, are you buying it?
Of course not. Literally no one sane could buy this. And so we'll get into the people not buying it a little bit later in this segment and in this show from all the different sides. And we'll get into who is powerful enough to cover this up. But guys, I want you to understand what Jordan just said. The people who said they definitely were the Epstein files and they were definitely going to reveal them and release them are now saying, not only is there no Epstein files, even though they were on her desk and there was truckloads of them, there were no Epstein clients. Hundreds of victims, the FBI once said it could get up into the thousands. Thousands of videotapes. Well, those videotapes were for no reason at all. And it doesn't even matter because there was no clients. No one to be prosecuted. Hundreds of victims, did they victimize themselves? Well, we're gonna find out apparently. No, actually, we're never going to find out. Isn't it interesting, Democrats and Republicans, and yet both of the parties say, oh no, there's nothing to see there. It's definitely not us or our intelligence agencies or any of our allies. Definitely not. Well, it doesn't matter because there's no clients at all. Then why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison? Why did that Prince Andrew give a giant settlement? Why did any of these things happen? Why did all of these people say there was, and then they get in, they go, sweat, as we're about to get into in a second. There is no files, there are no clients. Yeah, sure. So let Jordan explain to you guys, show you the truth and the lies. But if you believe that there were no Epstein clients, you might be the dumbest person in America.
Let's get into the details. According to a DOJ and FBI memo detailing the findings of their investigation, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. They also conclude that Epstein committed suicide in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City on August 10th, 2019, which they argue is consistent with previous autopsy findings and video footage. As part of this memo, the DOJ released 11 hours of alleged surveillance camera footage from the common area of the Special Housing Unit, or SHU, where Epstein was held between. And they write in their report, as DOJ's Inspector General explained in 2023, anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the SHU common area would have been captured by this footage. The FBI's independent review of this footage confirmed that from the time Epstein was locked in his cell at around 10:40 p.m. on August 9th, 2019, until around 6:30 a.m. the next morning, nobody entered any of the tiers in the SHU. But as you might remember, that DOJ Inspector General report they cited also revealed very suspicious technical issues with cameras inside the prison. Recorded video evidence for August 9th and 10th for the SHU area where Epstein was housed was only available from one prison security camera due to a malfunction of MCC New York's digital video recorder system that occurred on July 29th, 2019. While the prison cameras continued to provide live video feeds, recordings were made for only about half the cameras. MCC New York personnel discovered this failure on August 8th, 2019, but it was not repaired until after Epstein's death. The available recorded video footage from the one SHU camera captured a large part of the common area of the SHU and portions of the stairways leading to the different SHU tiers, including Epstein's cell tier. Epstein's cell door, however, was not in the camera's field of view. The two guards assigned to check Epstein's cell overnight fell asleep and shopped online at their desk for about 3 hours and later falsified related records. Nonetheless, the government insists there was no foul play. And now they're trying to say that what they really care about is protecting Epstein's thousands of victims. One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. Perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of those ends. To that end, while we have labored to provide the public with maximum information regarding Epstein and ensured examination of any evidence in the government's possession, it is the determination of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation that no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. That's a departure from the Trump administration's attitude at the beginning of his term. One day after telling Fox News she had Epstein's client list on her desk, Pam Bondi distributed binders marked declassified to far-right influencers at the White House. But it quickly became clear that the information inside was already public. So Cenk, despite these stunts, you might say, and all of these previous claims from the administration and many figures throughout the Trump camp, now suddenly they want everyone to believe that there's nothing to see here. Okay. It's all good. We're moving on.
So there are two things to talk about right now. One is the video cameras, the other is the series of spectacular coincidences. So first on the video cameras. So there was a mysterious video camera recorder malfunction at the exact time that Epstein hung himself. But don't worry, they have one useless camera trained on a rando door in a rando common area. But wait, that doesn't show a cell at all. It shows a common area. It proves absolutely nothing. And it appears there's 1 minute missing from the video. Oh, come on, guys. I mean, this is the most incompetent cover up in the history of humanity. It's done so incompetently. We're gonna tell you later in the show about how MAGA's like, oh, come on. We'll believe anything from Trump, but this is the most unbelievable thing that anyone has ever. There's no clients, and the video cameras were magically off, and the guards were magically asleep and shopping. All of this magic happened, but don't worry, there's nothing to see here, okay? Okay, look, I don't know that a single Democrat believes that. I don't know that a single Republican believes that. Some weird defense of it from folks who support Israel. I don't know why they're doing that. That's an interesting defense. Not all of them, but some of them, and I find that super curious. Okay, so look, obviously the cameras. Look, if you can't understand that the camera's not working at the time, and this junk video that they put out being totally irrelevant since it doesn't show a cell. I mean, again, maybe they're assuming their voters are super dumb. And they're thinking, it doesn't matter what the Democrats think. It doesn't matter what independents think. We just have to trick MAGA. And those guys will listen to anything Trump says. So if Trump says, no, don't believe your lying eyes and ears. It is the command of the party that you listen to us instead of the truth. Okay, but as you're gonna see, that's not even working because no one can believe. Okay, so now there's spectacular coincidences, and there's a lot of these. So did you know this? I did not know this until today. So parts of this I found out with a great interview we did with Tara Palmieri. You should check that out on our YouTube channel. Okay, she's a reporter who's covered Epstein a lot. So Epstein was not a finance guy. He was a math teacher. But I didn't know until today who had hired him to be a math teacher when he had no college degree. Wait, what? Epstein didn't even have a college degree? Okay, but he got hired anyway to a private school by the father of former Attorney General Bill Barr. What? Okay, he was let off in 2000s with a very light slap on the wrist by a guy named Acosta, who later wound up being Donald Trump's labor secretary. Wait, what? He was a prosecutor. What does he have to do with labor secretary? Did you know the top groomer that was helping Epstein, his number one co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's apparently unjustly in prison right now, if you believe the Trump administration, because how could she have been a groomer and helped bring hundreds of victims to Epstein if there were no clients and no one ever got abused and no one's ever going to be prosecuted for it? Anyway, so she's there. Trump, by the way, said she's a very fine person twice after she was arrested, and he knew that she was the top groomer in the country. Of course, Trump has also said that Epstein was, quote, a terrific guy, and he knew that he liked him young. Okay, so not released under Democrats, not released under Trump. One last amazing coincidence. So that same Ghislaine Maxwell, her dad was an Israeli spy. Things that make you go, But hey, there's nothing to see here. Everyone should move along, and the government isn't lying to you. This doesn't look like it's some sort of inside job by some sort of government at all. No. Now that Biden and Trump have told you that there's nothing, I'm sure nothing happened. All those hundreds of victims, what, lied? They're all fictional? No one actually abused them? They weren't rich and powerful? They're not on tape? But we know they're on tape. And now you're not gonna release any of the tapes, and you're not gonna charge any of the people. Okay, I mean, this, and then they wonder how people lose faith in government. This is exactly how they lose faith in government, but a lot more. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, this is so interesting to me because I think the right does a lot of things well on a movement and base wide level. They're really good at building up narratives. They're really good at message discipline. But it's really interesting to see here how figures in the Trump administration have backed themselves into a corner rhetorically. You pointed out, we've talked about, they've said, oh, the list is on my desk. And you have people like Kash Patel and JD Vance over the past several months or a year or a couple of years talking about how the reason that you, our dear beloved MAGA, the reason you're not seeing these files is because corrupt co-conspirators in the Democratic Party and the government are hiding it from you. That's a lot to answer for when you're in power and you're saying, well, there's nothing to see here. And it is interesting to see how on some things, when the Trump administration betrays their base, I would argue the big beautiful bill is a massive betrayal of their base. In instances like that, they'll just accept it, they'll justify it. But here, they're so conditioned to expect transparency and feel entitled to, and I would argue there's truth to that, entitled to transparency in this, that they are freaking out. There's massive backlash against this administration. We'll get into it more in the next segment, but I think the administration really poorly handled this and miscalculated how their own supporters would react.
Yeah, and I gotta say, wait till Epstein finds out. He killed himself for nothing. Turns out there were no clients and there was no tape. Again, I challenge one person to raise their hand and say, I'm dumb enough to believe this. So the conspiracy theory now is not that Epstein was murdered and he was working with some sort of intelligence agencies and blackmailed all those people. That is not the conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory now is that the government is right and there were no clients and there was no file and there is no tape of the hallway and the guards were vigilant but didn't happen to see what happened, and that and we're all supposed to believe that all those powerful people didn't exist, didn't sleep with those people, didn't go to Lolita, get on the Lolita Express and go on the Epstein's Island. When we all know they did, we all know it. This is amazing. This is the US government under both parties saying, we think our citizens are fools, we'll treat them like fools, and you are not allowed to lose faith in government. The politicians are honest and wonderful, and they are not affected by money. And Jeffrey Epstein was an upstanding individual who didn't have any clients at all and just randomly killed himself for no reason. And by the way, we randomly arrested his co-conspirator and she's spending 20 years in prison. But no powerful person actually slept with those young girls. My ass, says the entire country, united for the first time on this issue. I don't see any dissent at all unless you're mentally challenged. Like you literally have mental problems and can't figure out that 1 + 1 = 2. So you'd have to be, again, the most establishment-loving, naive fool in the world to think that there were no clients and there was no list and there were no tapes. There definitely were. Trump is definitely lying. So was Biden. So was every president that covered up this Epstein drama. Why? There's only one thing that could keep governments from revealing what happened under both parties, and that some intelligence agency was involved, either ours or an ally's or both. I don't really even see a second theory. I mean, here, Jordan, one last quick question for you for here. Do you see a second theory? What's the second theory? That he just did it all on his own, but yet the government is somehow covering it for Epstein anyway, because both Democrats and Republicans, politicians and government officials all just randomly love Jeffrey Epstein and just wanted to cover it up? Because they're definitely covering it up. So why in the world would they cover it up if it wasn't for one of our intelligence agencies?
I mean, it could be. I think the simplest explanation, not necessarily the right one, would just be, yeah, sure, he did it to blackmail people because he, if he was some financier and he wanted their money and that would, sustain his lifestyle, whatever. I think for me, the explanation is, yeah, Trump's in it. Trump's allies, his friends are in it. Just get rid of everything. Don't leave any potential link out there. Don't try to, classify it or censor it or omit documents. Just get rid of everything, throw it all out, and that's how you avoid anyone getting caught up in it. Sure, you get, you cover for some Democrats, but there's loyalty among the ultra wealthy and the powerful, even though they might pretend to hate each other publicly. I mean, sure, we know Bill Clinton has some sort of relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, but Trump and Clinton have gone back years. He was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. So that's a big club and we're not in it. And I think despite their political differences and all of the rhetoric about how Democrats are ruining society, they still recognize, hey, we run things here and we're not gonna break up this little club, because then that just sets out a new back and forth that I don't think anybody wants, because then you started getting into other personal issues and you get other dirty laundry aired out there. And I don't think that's something they wanted to invite. That's the simplest explanation.
Yeah.
Sure, it could be. We just don't know for sure on the intelligence agency stuff.
No, Jordan's right. That's the second explanation, which is, yeah, of course there's a client list. Of course there were clients. Of course there were tapes. But since very high-powered Republicans and Democrats were implicated, both parties are never going to let you know. It wasn't involved in the intelligence agencies. They just happened. Epstein just stumbled upon all of these super powerful people, got them all on tape with underage girls, but never used it, or did use it just to get rich. And then both the Democrats and Republicans know it, but they won't ever tell you because they're both on the list. Plausible. That's a plausible second explanation. But there is no explanation where there were no clients and there is no file and there are no tapes. That's not possible at all. So my guess is, of the two possibilities, the one where he's connected to the intelligence agencies is far, far, far more likely. Not that doesn't, by the way, preclude Jordan's theory. There seem to be very prominent Democrats and Republicans on that list, so it could be both. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.